In the previous tutorial, we covered putting the basement walls and floor in. So we can see right here we have a slab, our slab, and then our walls right here. And of course, also we put in the columns for our floor, for our first floor, but also the columns that support the steel columns that are running up through the building. So they will come down, hit the columns, and the columns are going to hit upon a footing. And that is true with the walls too. So in Revit, it's usually easier to put in all your walls that you want to have footings and columns that you want to have footings under. Then come back and add the foundation. In other words, unlike when you build it, which you start with the foundation and then you put those things on top of the foundation. So let's do this. And to do it, the first thing I'm going to do is turn off or hide all of these walls because I don't want to visually see them while I'm working. So I'm going to hide and view by category. Since they're the only walls on this view, I can just hide them all without hiding anything that I need. Also, I really don't need this floor, so I'm going to hide by element and get it just down to the columns themselves. Now let's put a footing in there. So we're going to go to structure and we're going to go to isolated footing, and you'll see it says there's no families loaded here. So what we're going to do is go to load families, and we're going to go down to structural foundations, and you can see a whole different bunch of piles, piling cap here, which is used with the piles, and then different types of piles, HP shape, which is a steel pile, and a steel pipe pile. I'm not going to worry about putting piling zone right now. We're just going to go to a footing, rectangular, typical rectangular footing, and we're going to open that and load that in. And you'll see there's two default sizes, 72 by 48 and 96 by 72, 18 inches each. And we don't probably need anything. Well, we really don't know whether we need anything bigger than that, but that's a little bigger than what I told you in class. We just want a placeholder right now. So I'm going to edit type just to show you how to do this. I'm going to duplicate it, and then I'm going to change this to 48 by 48. And then I got to change not just the name, I just changed the name, then I didn't actually change the size. I'm going to change the size right here. So the length of that rectangular footing, and I'm going to say OK. And so now you can see my little footing is on my insertion point, and I'm ready to insert it. But it'll be easier and quicker to insert it through the basement top of footing. This TOF is not top of floor, but top of footing. FS is finished floor. So I'm going to click on the basement, and we can see here's our basement view. And if we want to see the parameters of that basement view, we can go down here to view range and edit, and we can see that the cut plane is 1 foot above the basement level, the basement view, and then the top of the clipping plane is at 2 feet, the bottom of the clipping plane is at -4, and the overall associated view depth is -6. So we're going to accept that, and we haven't hidden the walls here, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and hide the walls in this view for right now. So hide category, and then I'm going to hide also this floor. So we're just down to grids and columns. And notice that the wall right now is cutting the column because it's assuming that the column will be poured in with the wall since they're poured in place concrete. So to place those piles, I'm going to go back to doing all that. I canceled out of the footing, so I'm going to go back into structures and into footing. So I have my footing here, and the easiest way to do this is just going to place one at the center of all the grids. So I'm going to, or the crossing of all the grids. So I'm going to just say grids, select all the grids, and as you can see, it put footings there, and I'm going to say, yeah, that looks great, let's finish it. But just to make sure, escape out of the command by hitting the escape key one time. And just to make sure, what I'm going to do is go into here to that section that we did in earlier and take a look and say, oh yeah, it's right there at the bottom of those footings. Well, how do I know it's at the bottom of those columns? Well, my footing is set at top of footing, and if I select my column here, if I find it, there's my column. Notice my column, the base level of it is the top of footing too. So they're sitting on, right now it's being blocked by the floor, the concrete slab floor we put in earlier. Okay, so we got a good start now. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go back to our 3D view. So we'll go back into our 3D view here. And I'm going to save this view so I can come back to it. So I'm going to go in here and say duplicate this view, and it'll give it another name. And I'm going to rename this basement foundation, since I've got things turned off. And so now I'm going to turn my walls back on. So I'm going to go down here, and I clicked on the little reveal hidden elements, and you can see my walls right there. They're right below this kind of curb slab element that I put in at the beginning that I've hidden. And so you can see them right there, and I'm going to select it and do the same thing in reverse. I'm going to unhide view by category, and that will unhide them. And then let's turn off all the other hidden views, and you can see now my walls are here, and there's my footing. So now I'm going to put a footing underneath that, and to do that I'm going to go back to structure. This time I'm going to put a footing under a wall, structural foundation wall, and we'll see there's already a few loaded in, or one bearing footing 36 inches by 12 inches, retaining footing 24 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches. 36 inches is probably a little wide, but we'll go ahead and take that. Better safe than sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and take the 36 inch, 12 inches in depth, and to place that, since it's a special type of footing, I can do it by selecting multiple walls. So as soon as I select a wall, notice it poured the footing. I'll do that here, I'll do that here, and I'll do that here. So now we have a footing underneath. And the next thing we're going to put in is our grade beams. And remember that our grade beams, they're the connectors here, as we talked about in the lecture. So there's going to be a grade beam from here to here, a grade beam from here to that footing, and that footing to that footing, and that footing to that footing. So we've got a kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4 grade beams. Now there's no grade beam. If you go under structure, you're not going to see grade beam in here. So what we're going to do is just use a typical beam, but we're going to make our own beam. And we're going to assume that the beam is at the same depth as our footing was. So we're going to assume that it's at, once again, it's at the top of footing, and it's a depth of 12 inches. And let's say that it's going to be 24 inches instead of 36, because we don't need as much load there. So I'm going to go in here, and we'll notice we don't have any concrete beams loaded. So I'm going to have to go in here to load family, and go down once again to structural, and you'll see framing right here, structural framing. And instead of steel this time, we'll go into concrete, poured in place concrete, and you'll see rectangular beam. And so I'm just going to open that rectangular beam, and then I'm going to edit the type, and I'm going to duplicate this, but I'm going to call this a grade beam, so that I know that it's wider than it is deeper. And we'll put a colon there, and I'm going to say grade beam, and I want it in height, width to be 24 inches, So I'm going to say 24 inches by 12 inches deep. Oh, we can't put the colon in. Sorry about that. So we'll just delete it and go with grade beam 24 by 12. And then you'll see the B dimension and the H dimension. The B is the let's see, what is it? The width. So I'm going to set this to 24 inches, and the H is of course the height, and I'm going to set that to 12 inches. And so that makes our grade beam. We're in good shape now. And I'm going to go back to my structural top of footing plan again. And I'm going to draw in this grade beam, but I'm not going to be able to see it because of this floor. So I'm going to hide that floor, hide element, so I can see it. And oh, that was basement. No, that was a floor plan. Let's close that. And let's go to structural plan. That would be better, so that we can see our footings. You got to be careful about that, especially if they're named the same. Make sure you're under the right category. I do that all the time. Okay. So since we're in the top of the footing plan, the default is going to be to place that beam at its top. So we're going to go back into beams, select that beam, and you'll want to check your settings over here. We're not going to justify any of this. The Z justification will be at the top, so this beam will be placed by the top of the beam and then extruded downwards. So level is top of floor, and structural usage we'll say automatic. And so we're going to place a beam. Might turn on 3D snapping, make this easier. And we're going to go in and place a beam from here to there, and from here to there, and from here to the intersection of there. We may not have got that one touching. We didn't. We'll come back and edit it in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and do this. So we got the intersection that time. And we want the intersection here. I didn't touch there either. Okay, so we can just modify these. I can grab this and touch it there. That one's looking good. And this one, I can connect it there. So I don't have this one connected, because if I did, they would join together. And you can see the line right there where they aren't connected. So what I'm going to do, probably a safe way to do that, is go modify and do an align. And so I'm going to say align to this right, that surface right there. Okay, and then of course I could lock this, so if this changed, I made the footing bigger or whatever, it could get larger. Now I didn't lock any of the others, so I won't lock it right now, but it'd probably be a good thing to do would be to lock it. And same thing here, I've got a similar problem. So now my footings are, and that's just a simple align. You select the things you want to align to, and the same, and you select the item then that you want to align. Does not take. Okay. We'll lock it. So I'm going to get out of that command by hitting the escape key twice. This didn't align either. I don't know why it didn't hold. Let's lock it this time. Yeah, it did when I locked it. Okay, so let's check it though. Trust but verify. So I'm going to go into, let's close this view, and let's go into a section here, and we can see there's our grade beam right there. Can't see it really well, so we might go back in here and move a section cut just a hair so that we're not cutting through the grade beam but actually cutting just through the wall footing. And we'll go back then to that section. It's really great to use your views so that you're able to see. So you can see the grade beam right here, and it's shorter than the footing for the column. There's the footing for the column. There's a grade beam there, and a grade beam right there, and of course our floor slab. And so now the structure and the basement are complete. If we go back into our 3D view, our generic 3D view, we can see right there, and I'm going to unhide. So I'm going to come in and say, let's unhide these walls again. And let's unhide we'll unhide that slab too, but we can do that later. Okay, so that's how we get a foundation for our building. Now we've got a foundation, all of the columns, and we're ready to start laying in beams.